next line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the next line is, in practice, may I know diligence. So this is, such an important factor in both accomplishing worldly objectives as well as Dharma objectives. Without diligence, we can't accomplish anything. And the quality of diligence, especially in the context of Dharma, is to enjoy, to take pleasure in your Dharma activities, in your Dharma practice. And so that becomes the motivating factor. Diligence, the essence of diligence is enjoyment. So when we enjoy our practice, that becomes the motivating factor. That is the most powerful diligence, is relishing or enjoying the process. And also part of that delight comes from knowing what is happening as we really apply ourselves in virtue, that we are purifying the obscurations, that our karmic imprints are so thick. And so in order to correct them, in order to purify them, we have to again and again apply ourselves in practice or in virtue. And then naturally, the karmic imprints and obscurations diminish, but it takes a lot of work. And so that's why diligence is necessary. We have to practice again and again. We have to counteract our tendencies again and again through the practice. And this is the way that we make progress. Otherwise, if we don't have diligence, it's because our karmic imprints are so thick, that becomes the propensity. That is the overwhelming momentum, is the momentum of non-virtue. So if we don't do anything to counteract it, then the afflictive emotions just will do their thing on their own because of the very strong habituation or karmic imprint.
Next
So then the next line is, in benefiting others, may I know sacrifice.
Juba Changjosan, Jogo, Juba Changjosan, Jobarchivala, Lo Junama Tawachilla, Hiela Panto to be a Yomari, Jig Carsego Luke Bono. Mata Nido Galai, or Tin Berna, Juba Changjosan, Jogo.
So then, so what this has to do with is, first of all, this is based in motivation. So in our efforts, we're not just focused on benefiting ourselves, but the whole objective is to bring about the benefit of others. And so with bodhicitta, this means cultivating the two types of bodhicitta, the relative bodhicitta, the aspiration and the application. So we have the aspiration, but we really also, more importantly, have to engage in the application, because the aspiration itself won't achieve the benefit. It's actually the application that actually brings about real benefit. So we have to apply ourselves in cultivating that type of bodhicitta.
Zundu Zamna, Loton Chigu Gore, Gale Yore, Tenenga to Zona, Gale Yore, in a Loton Chigu Yores.
Loton Sena?
Loton Sena Hyojago.
So that means we have to really apply ourselves. Oh, sacrifice. We have to really sacrifice, and that means maybe stretching a bit. So, for instance, in the perfections, the practice of the 6 perfections, in practicing generosity, like it's not just diligence, but there should be a little bit of stretching, a little bit of sacrifice there too, maybe going a little bit beyond your means, because in the practice of Dharma, there should be hardship, there should be difficulty.
오다 로동나 가지나 테레다. 로동나 오다 나 로당 참마 로당 샤도 다나 losing 도지 차기요사리 삼그러 텐데 말이스. 로동 가시 집이 이나야 다 당지도 행로고다 당지강다 휴거베다. 베 로동 세야 되게 당기 공투와 나이로와 베나 로동 톱나 랑 로동 톱이나 테네 당기가 좋다 로동 마톱나 가지 곰라티 있지야 냠란라티 있지나 해마지 여러봐 당기 해마 해야지 여러 당지강 해마 항상 충충래 해마지 충충 다 디디 휴나양 다동 코힌 디 네알타 근조히라 자요 말에 얘네 다 도솔 로통 치비나 되네 고백 해마라오지 차대 거든 당지 원에 통해 좀 그래서 되네 가서 연구도 했어 생각해도 닌게 항상 여러랑 가 ben organ jimba tanya la so betene jik tane jekap ka thanda la na hena joba me zamba ro da ta lo tang thok bu do to so la karsana ko dangzi ta higu yore ko dangzi nga je na gre nga cha gre nga yung je yung gre je chi samna tene ko dangzi lo tang thok yo mar wa da hina ta to so higu yore da nga da dis heng ro yore nga thok chung ro yore wa.
And so when we hear the word sacrifice, sometimes we think, that means I lose something. There's this feeling of kind of fear around loss. But the truth is, it's the opposite, because when we sacrifice, if that becomes the direct kind of counter, it counteracts the mind of self-grasping, then there's only benefit that comes also to yourself. So our degree, how much we can really sacrifice and endure hardship and difficulty for the sake of our practice, also determines the level of our practice. It's like hammering. If you have a really small or kind of like a very light hammer, I'm thinking actually I thought that there's this little flower hammer that we have upstairs. It's really, really light, and so if you hammer a nail with a really light hammer without a lot of effort, it's just not gonna go. So if you do some light practice, you meditate, you do your recitations, but you're not actually, you're just keeping it very comfortable, and you're not really stretching yourself, you're not enduring difficulty or hardship, then there's just not, it's kind of like hammering with a light hammer on a nail that just doesn't really go anywhere. It just stays there, and you're hammering, but it's not doing anything really. And so on the other hand, when you really apply yourself in a way where there is endurance and hardship and sacrifice, then it's like getting a really gigantic hammer and pounding a nail, and it goes down, as a result of your efforts or practice. And so the reason why we have difficulty sacrificing is again because of the self-grasping. So there are examples of people who, for instance, give away their own organs, who sacrifice themselves for their country, thinking, if I go into war zones and think if I die, I'm okay with that. This is for the their focus is on the well-being of the people, and not on themselves. So what prevents us from sacrifice or hardship is that mind that's I. It's the mind of self-grasping. Oh yeah. The next line is, and relying on the Lama may I know trust.
다 티인도 제탕가 저들라 삼노 땅고 야 다 직 라마라 이치치 고래 라마라 대바지 고래 라도 야직 라마텔라 뽐본다고 대단다고 다 되게 가르치 효나지 지효 지친다고지 근데 말했어.
So first of all, it's important to understand what it means to rely on, to have faith in the Lama, to trust the Lama, to rely on the Lama. So sometimes there's this thought that it's like, oh, it means you must do whatever the Lama says, and there's this idea that the Lama is like the boss or a dictator, and we have to like be completely subservient.
어떻게 다 제타 상지 송도아 이나 제타 그 라마 템베 갑라 라마 타야다 다 저소 요다 저소 제타 저소 히라면도 디나야 계시 다직 레당 제네 라마테 차비휴라 초나티 추드 냠래 치기요르와 그 집이 갑라 가르세나 추 집이 내갑 들어가라 디가라 되네 직 뭐니 라마텔라 고직 상지 킹두시지 하고요레스 계시 상진 두시 샤비나 펜도 가려 라마데 덱테던도 말이 이나 초라 라마텔 틴디지 요나 초라 상지 고마 톱그러와 초라 상지 차가 요레스 이나 드송도 와 아테 조원직 드송 공인지를 다 얘기하고 튕기면 이나 초라 디펜딩디 라우도 오래 조어는 뭐 삽존한도 와 초라 라마 추근도 히오나 추그도 그레스다 롱고다 톨그도 히오나 요레스 초라 라마 바타멘도레 코다 테닌도지레 산테야 아테텐디나 choran thame bayana rote ayo mare songdo wa otiniti rank benefit in raise above ta trust faith no tha ko is.
And so, but what it means is that, like, mainly this is in terms of practice and the way that you relate with or rely on your spiritual teacher in the context of practice. So when you're relying on a teacher, the Buddha has said, if you have karma with that spiritual teacher, once you've made a connection, and you are in fact relying on them, then it's really important in the process of your Dharma practice to really see the teacher purely and to take his pith instructions or his guidance in practice to heart, to really see the spiritual teacher as the Buddha, to have that perception. And the benefit that comes from that is not benefit to the teacher, it's benefit to yourself, that there is progress and there is the ability, that then it becomes a situation which can lead to Buddhahood or lead to awakening. As Lord Jigten Sumgön has said, if the degree of realization that arises in the mind is directly dependent upon the perception that we have towards the spiritual teacher. So if you see the spiritual teacher as the Dharmakaya, you attain the Dharmakaya. If you see them as the Sambhogakaya, you attain the Sambhogakaya. If you see them as an ordinary being, if you see them as an Nirmanakaya, you attain Nirmanakaya. If you see them as an ordinary being, then you remain an ordinary being. And so it is, however much you can develop trust and confidence in your spiritual teacher, there's only benefit that can come to you. And when he says, faith, he means reasonable faith, as much as, within kind of like based on reason.
Kisi individual 똑바지 제부구요나 셈 이니 태촌 미비 이치지 미비나 다 이나 맨날 라마 지부마다 추치나 추치구요나 다그 태촌 매워지 고고래 태촌지 요나 대덴바이나 덴바메나 야고요나 야고미나서나 다 the biggest obstacle 와 냠도 거제요 말이스.
And so not only do you need to have trust in the Lama, but you also need to have trust in the practice. So that means, if you don't have faith or trust, then, and if you're plagued by all sorts of doubts, also in terms of like your Dharma practice, like, is this working? Is this not working? Is this really how it is? Is this not how it is? Can I really trust? Can I not trust? Like, this becomes the biggest obstacle to your practice. And there's as long as there's that doubt, then you won't give rise to any realization. There has to be conviction there.
그린다 냠도 대바 히버 효스타 사장이 인도 히지바 잡 효소를 다 개면도. tinta last tewa nyamto ndo na teba hebar chos terita jetang tokwa jeta mugu kona ten zongdwa enita jetang na teba yo mit lap chaimba.
And so the next line is very similar, as it says, in desire for experience and realization, may I know faith. And so, as is said, the only means or cause for the arising of realization is mugu, or devotion. And so this is very related to what he just explained above. And then the next one is, in practicing secret mantra, may I know pure view.
That's all. Yidam deity the benata, them highest yoga. Tinitanga to Samsa Oko, Tenido, Suppontinino, Yosari, Tenido, Nasojita. In a those sama Darawa, Danawoji, Danoji, Tangore. Penna Tezon, that, or Japamondovina, Matsoki, Penna Moraina, Turo Kongo Marwa. Turo Magoyati, Karisena, Chadanki, Yuli, Torsomadoji. Dangzini, Torre Danoji, that the Lini, Penna Peshado, Pundoina, Pukchunjoina. Tiniko Marando, the Congo Sagamare, Kanayo Marwa. Oh, that is so noji. Nga say the Yabore, the Dubore, some Tangas Yachimbo Chanatene, Meshimba Nga Yore, Hen Yore, Tenet, the Yabore, Dubore, Rank Namto Yore, Meshank Judge Chigawa. What that Tindiki could yell toward the water. In a soak Tiniki. That's all that
So when it comes to the practices of secret mantra, like in particular, for instance, like the generation stage, practicing the Yidam deity, especially, when we like certain practices like Vajra Varahi or Chakra Samvara, and then we have like this concept of, there's the deity and their form is like this, and there are all of these like attributes and details, but really what the form of the deity is meant to do is it's like pointing to something else. It's just a sign. It's just an arrow it is showing a deeper meaning. And so, for instance, like for Vajravarahi, she doesn't have any clothing. She's naked. And what that represents, what that is pointing to, is the mind that is beyond attachment and aversion, that is completely liberated from dualistic grasping, concepts of self and others, like the freshness of a child, that may run around, naked, for instance, and there isn't the concept of, I and them, or good or bad, or I am good or I am bad, or others' judgment, or what have you. But it really is beyond, the extremes of attachment and aversion, or the realm of duality. And so this is what the deities are demonstrating to us in their form. Everything is representational, and it is pointing to a deeper meaning, an inward state of being.
That's for one example. Ringe urgent the crown, crown number. Tanga something or the Gerbu crown and Temari. That he carrots on your lavina. That la consola, no mombata, mambo yore. In a new momba mambo non the mata, subsound. That you not do winner, or the time momba, cheshoti, Mayorwa. Tea nyumba nata, Samatanya Pachava, Bena. Pecoranco Tangila, one dubere. Then do it every hula tanga to main damra tagre, Jawaringa tagi yori, five wisdom tagi or that kind of manakanda, to someone do the watela, that teak go, that song yorwa. Then I got Jachesa Zamoton, Henkam, Shalon of Young Henkam Lasso, that day, song word, that's why they, Karsana, ngazo ki jule yobe nyom bon du de wati ngoda thank you is.
And so another example is like the crown of the deity, so we tend to think like, oh, the crown, it's like, it's sort of like the king, it represents or means that they're like the king or the queen. But actually here, what it is representing is the total pacification or having liberated the afflictive emotions into their pure essence of, which is that of the five wisdoms, or the pure display of the five Buddha families. And so all of the different afflictive emotions are subsumed into the five that are represented as in the form of wisdoms. Their essence is that of wisdom, and that is what the crown represents. And so what that means is the pacification, or bringing the afflictions, all of the variety of afflictions, under one's power. And so there are all of these different names, that are used to describe kind of these wisdom qualities, whether, the five wisdoms, the five Buddha families, the five like pure abodes, or the pure realms of the five directions of, west, north, east, and south, and so on. But again, what this is pointing to is an essence, which is much deeper than like the representational form.
어다 대가 나기 계지 상아 데 타나고 거래 다 가서 타나데 갈서나 베는 가서 individually no some 땅비나야 아직 the ordinarily 무슨줄 삼바 숨지들이 고마다마다 가가요래 포포모요래 로겐 게다 형다마다 요러와 이나야 고지 타뱅고 some 땅비나 지가 지차래 갈서나 맞아 헤데와 이피 닝보요와 지파래 tene lu khoraya the yobi jum sen den yedan lan drop de yore tene tene ngazo bena thesung do wa sanga drum khen ina ngazo bena sangha member da win bin da chang so ji hla da hla mo ran yi de ji phuina pawo phomoina pamo law do o tene ji o tindi ke ko ran yi ji du hi ji zgo gore da ta ma do tindi mi bin ngazo ta to ma de ngazo sem de ngazo sem ko yagbore ko dugore ko yagbore la yina ngazo zude chilo zugore je yagbo je dugbo je yagbo yina yata ti karsan tangke khorang tene da ko start cha de gro yina ngande tam no chiraso pe changma pe la more sana ta nga yagdo ke ko dualistic dangzi ti ta nga hegbro yini ngeke go ta chu pe je yagbo do je dugbo do je gre pere je pomore ta da mara tene samdina tene ko ne dangzi de hel thog marwa o te ni ta nga so difficulty ri ti na ya ko ji so de sin na rawa chon ga gu na de ko na ga gi mi na de ji relative level ina ya ko ji sem ge teng ne ko so la da la mo da ye re zam ba ni thang na ji yo bi na de ne nga so ra ju da tha thog ro wa ina nga so yu je la ma da wa ji sem de na de ne ra tha ro ya ma re
So also a very important aspect of secret mantra practice is that actually by, is that it should be increasing the perception of pure view. And that doesn't just mean individually, but actually that a product of your own generation stage is that you see others purely. And so that means, if you have a room full of 30 people, there isn't any thought of like better and worse, superior and inferior, but you really see everyone, male and female, everyone as a deity. Whether they are old, whether they are young, everybody is seen as an expression of the innate purity. And that is how it actually is, because we all have the Buddha nature. And so when we see through the filter, when we no longer see through the filter of impure perception, but we see things as they actually are with pure perception, then we really see all beings as Yidam deities. So all the Sangha members become male and female deities, without they boo, all of the men are dakas and all of the women are dakinis. And so there isn't the concept of like, oh, he's bad and she's good, or this person is better and this person is worse, or this person's higher and this person's lower. As long as there's those kind of concepts in the mind, the person who is thinking those things becomes stuck. And so when we have true pure perception, then we're really able to see everyone as a pure expression of the deity, and we're not stuck anymore in dualistic, ordinary perception. And so whoever on a relative level, so if there is this kind of constant like judging and grasping in regard to outer phenomena, then on a relative level, then we won't be able to also diminish self-grasping.
As long as Suk Korat Sanya Sina, then Koran individually send Tato Marwa. Tindijik Sanya, Sim Dingy Yuna, Tinning also you let Taggart and you co you marries, co suit Tagguna, Tangan Koran, then the same to Taya Kaborwa.
So the one who is grasping to good and bad, or like the outer objects being better or worse, those things are not actually in the objects. They're in the perception of the individual. And so as long as the individual is holding on to those, they are blocked from purifying their own mind.
Right, so sometimes we have worldly sense, so like, of course, individually, sometimes we have concept, thoughts, so that's kind of natural. But however, so we ultimately, you think we so we trust to all every have the Buddha nature, same. And also this we have particular, Sangha member. So most important, I said this morning, so just kind of, sometimes, or just completely pure, or no afflicted emotions, no anger, so on. That's impossible, But same time, just don't hold, just sometimes come, but sometimes go, Don't keep, whatever situations. So that is more difficult if you're keeping, so whatever more than like this, or maybe also counter, sometimes there are issues, then remind again. Yeah, of course, the past is past, so you really fall
the past is past.
Yeah, so this fall to, moment to moment, so that is, I think. Tinita detondu na sundu hebarho stateri. Tangazo detondu nga dewa gugudu, dongba gugudu stinde, mare, tangazo ji gomja bikabla tene, Jatanda, Mambo Yori in a tatini peche in a tat, Jatangazo set on sunju, but the gom shinenda or jicombi na yang, jig sam the goma kasha and our same kasha, what you walk, pengamari, tended in it, teak nana. Same to Namto Mewate, Tachunyak, Jagore, Kesi Namto maybe 2 left on her, Tinea, same civic ragi, Tinejari, same the Yaponesona, Tinea, Tinejik Devat in the Yongre, Yang, Devatiking Ola, Yang, Jik Devatala, Chagem Meva, Tiki Deving Ola, Tomba, what a Tinej in the Kusunjus, go yores.
So then the next line says, in desire of bliss and emptiness, may I know their indivisibility. So this is, pointing to the importance of these kind of two aspects in recognizing the essence of awareness. So, we want to get to a place where we are really free from the discursive thoughts, but if we're just trying to block the thoughts, that alone isn't going to benefit. Maybe we get to a place where we are able to abide, in a state free from concepts, but it also has to have the presence of, so I'm just going to say, because there's this term, salwa, which is, it's hard to say exactly in English, so I just had a conversation with someone recently about this term, but we could say luminosity, we could say clarity. It's maybe something in between, but it's not exactly like full luminosity, or just clarity. There is this element of luminosity, but not maybe to the extent that people think that there is. So there should be this this element of kind of clear clarity or luminosity present. So not just the emptiness, but also that there's this illumination or clarity. And then when that is there, the essence of that is bliss. But so the bliss is there, but there's also not fixation to the bliss. There isn't grasping. So there should be the indivisibility. The balance must be present in that.
Tene 상지에 놓는 짐이 해버려. 그래다디 당긴가 디 참아 related 참아 요르와. 테네다 다리다 직 나든 짐비게 되네. 짐마지 요나 테네 상지 말에. 테네 직 당지 직 로통미나 다 상지세야 테레스. 맞아 지탕다 배망보 요래. 테네 직 투가 핵세나 요래 가나 인가 저 렉탕 마렉 랍도 야 닝마도 저게 지 마렉 발라 코바리 렉나 상지르와 어다 티인도 티 칼라고 했으나 맞아 당지리 다 돈단 도르도 힘나 당지해나 상지레스 되네 진진바메와 라와 되네 다지 나도 다는 진바요나 둘레스레 컨셉트네 고 상지 요 말다 코바라와
And so then the next line, in desire of Buddhahood, may I know non-clinging. So this is also related and comes back to self-grasping and the absence of self-grasping. So if there's self-grasping, then there's no Buddhahood. And so to arrive at Buddhahood, then dualistic fixation or delusion has to be destroyed or overcome. But in essence, it is very simple. So it is, as is said, it's a matter of awareness or unawareness. So when there is awareness, when there is not awareness, or then that is samsara. When there is awareness, that is Buddhahood. But that Buddhahood is characterized by a total absence of grasping. So with that total freedom from fixation, if there is fixation, if there's self-grasping and dualistic concepts, there is no Buddhahood. It is just samsara. And then the next line is, in the clarity of my own mind, may all become naturally clear.
다 갈세는 되는 거죠. 샘탕고 그래. 다 샘탕에 이제 당가서다 추도버 치와라 되네. 지 라마테야 왕 롱치 팀리 고그레 로와 디키친랍 이나양다 조치효데 랑 수수게 냠내 제야리 되네. 양 삼상 가서 삼그로 다가지 라마 약보지 이제나 디키직배 정마 소그레도 다 지양 지 레완로 요리 티나야 다디 요말 랑샘 탕마다레 테네 랑샘 탕 코 카바디나 탕로 그래 카완로나 탕게레 다 랑샘 마다나 지 사자베 홀리 플레이스이나리 야메나 코 커세 그래 지 라마베 노메타 자침보 테니 지 티칭 토비나 제바 요말레 텐데 테네 다조 갈스나 가서 랑샘 탕고 그래 다 탕소나 테네 참마 탕바레스
Then in this also has to do with, so again, in the terminology here, there's something similar in this term for clarity. Also, it's connected to purity. So clarity also has to do with purity. So whether so what it really comes down to is like the purification of your own mind. So we have all of these conditions. For instance, we rely on qualified teachers. We get empowerments, transmissions, teachings. There are many occasions in which to receive blessings, but what it really comes down to is one's own practice and the work that we do for ourselves. Sometimes there can think like, oh, based on if I can just, like the Lama with the strength of their blessings will purify my mind for me. But actually it isn't that way. One has to do the work oneself. One has to purify your own mind, and then that determines all of experience and also access, how you relate to the blessings, how you relate to, for instance, he said, if your mind is pure, wherever you are, you will experience outer purity. If your mind is impure, even if you go to the holiest of places, you will still experience the same thing. Even if you come into, it doesn't matter like how profound and powerful a spiritual teacher is, it won't make any difference. What it really comes down to is the purity of your own mind. And when your own mind is pure, all outer phenomena also manifests as pure. So we could say in the purity of my own mind, may all become naturally pure.
다 디네 빵스미나 탐치 빵스 톱스미마 탐치 톱스 다 조카스는 다디 엔저히 이제 바이오 사리티나야 고 더나 데레다 지가서 ordinarily 지 상당 년당 양 톱이야 그래원다고 딘디제 아슬롱 아승아지 톱고고도 이벤도 산제 고모 톱고고도 ndaw지 셈디위나 대양 짐바리 되네 딘디제 다 녀마지 다다가 칸톱 고고면도 삼반다고지 이나야 대한 섬 땅고로 다다 가르쳐거리디 지 치아바다와도 딘디 강야메와 딘디 라고요 마다 이나야 다 고초야 냠내 치니야 랩송도 되네 다지 톱고야 그래와 미비나 톱바레스 다 지바레 코라니 되네 지 땅가서 레 탐보바이나 지 빵야 요래 빵네 되네 지 메게와 줄라서 다 도서 참마야 빵차베 휴라 되네 지 다 빵야 메비나 되네 다 참 빵바레스
Pangya mepa yena sangma pangya. Okay. So then, with nothing to renounce, may all be naturally renounced.
이 잭로인데 톱트 민나 탐지 톱스 톰
Di kimsa dina pangya dangpo dine otla yang dina toya meba.
말이 바로 이제 냠들라고 요러냐.
Oh, okay. And so this is together with the last line, which is also with nothing to attain, may all be naturally attained. And so again, this is ordinarily we're very bound up in, concepts of good and bad, and wanting to gain, having hope with respect to the result or attaining something, thinking I need to get this, and if there is hope and expectation in terms of attainment, that is just grasping, and as long as there is grasping, then there's no attainment. There's no way to attain anything, and so the tawame, as long, like as is said, once there is grasping, there's no view, and so to be, without, of course, in the beginning we have to be focused on for instance, especially with the line above, in terms of renouncing, then we need to focus on renouncing what is harmful, renouncing what is non-virtuous, like avoiding the 10 non-virtues. But when that then maybe becomes bound up in grasping an expectation and in hope for some sort of attainment or fruition, then that kind of won't lead to the full attainment. So at a certain point, there is just complete freedom from any expectation, freedom from any hope with regard to results. And so it is within that then with nothing to renounce, all is naturally renounced. With nothing to attain, all is naturally attained.
Okay. You're welcome. So you have some questions or a few minutes?
A quick question. So you were talking earlier about expectation, and as practitioners in the beginning, as beginning practitioners, we might have expectation because there's still worldly thoughts mixed in. And as we progress along the path, we might have less expectations. But in the middle, there might be a place where expectation is starting to lessen, but the motivation isn't as strong. So how do I put this? So in the beginning, you might have a lot of, there's this tendency for practitioners in the beginning to have a lot of energy, enthusiasm, because they might have expectation. And then they might give up the practice because that expectation lessens. Or they might do less practice. So how does one get from the beginning, when there's a lot of maybe worldly expectation, to a point where we don't have a hope for result, but there's a transitional place where the motivation goes from self-grasping or wanting something for oneself to having a motivation or intention that's for the benefit of others? Does that make sense? So in other words, in the beginning, we might have worldly motivation mixed in, and then it gets to a point where that might start to erode away because there's some experience and practice. And so in the middle, you might not have as much motivation to progress.
The expectation the karsena benada ni yosare samudo goal. The expectations, I don't know the English same or not. The tangone expectation the kita yung sigirawa ta jinga cherung bugo do ji yabo go the re ina tendegirawa ina yang the cut up tiki mind majiwa go grace expectation tiki
What?
expectation kwaranke ji mind rawa the big ching de wa mai ma hyo chimbo nga ji do nga ta te karang to go do chuji chine wa ta nga ben nga ma bandari top go do tini samung no ta na tini ko bind chagrawa.
Oh, it's not binding. So on the one hand, like it can be that there's expectation there, and that there's still some, there's some idea of a goal, and it may even.
No, that goal is these kinds of something.
No, goal is different. Okay, goal la yinba. Oh, okay. So never mind. He was making the distinction at first, but he didn't, between expectation and goal, but then he didn't explain what his definition of goal. But with expectation, there might be, for instance, the thought like, may I have a long life, or, may there be this sort of, may I have well-being and happiness. But it is not,
It's okay, but not kind of bind.
But it's not completely binding. It's like a little bit lighter. So there's doing it, and there's maybe some expectation there, but it's not so self-focused, and it's not so kind of binding. It doesn't bind the mind in the same way.
Beginning the goal. Bongandini chi go do benata ngado ngondo no chi na ngate chi 차고도 나한테 지고도 선바지 여러와 디나다 전화라바나 이 담보라 골배다 지간데 지고 나한테 지 상지 공부하고 나한테 차고도 선바데 고기요 사레스 레트 전화라바나 이리스다 디니 칼레 고쳐 제당가서 드리 여러 배나 차샤나 온도도 위나 온도도 차고요레 장가요레 배망보 여러와 디니 칼레 마 이담데 디지 디니 디휴글라 배나다 지 차저 쳔본도 나로 추로도 위나다 디디 휴지다 지 장가서 안로야 안로지다 디니 히라 요마와 다 디니 고 코라라바나기 제기네 고다 땡도 이스기레스
And then, so definitely, like you said in the beginning, it can be very goal-oriented because it's like, there's this enthusiasm, there's a lot of grasping, there's sort of like, I need to achieve this, I'm going to, do like so many prostrations or what have you, and thinking, with a lot of grasping at the goal or what will happen if one does this. And so, and then little by little, like the enthusiasm calms down a bit, and Gundro is very designed, in such a way that it can really encourage that goal-oriented mentality. Like we have to accumulate, we have to do all the accumulations, and then there's sort of this driving force. And then later, as the practice evolves, Yidam deity, and then especially when you are doing Mahamudra or the 6 yogas, there's not so much accumulation there. So then there can be a real kind of drop off due to this like lack of kind of this clear goal that you're trying to get to. Didn't he? Oh, but did that answer it? Okay.
Rinpoche, there's another question from Zoom, and this is from Ann Donowitz. She says, how can I help others without increasing their self-grasping?
Tene mishimba gandre de ropa chego na tene kongso de ropa chego samne yeni ang kongso dagzin cheru madroya ki chidu gandre chego gare mo dinda lauge sarwa samsam na ropa china tene chichina kong ngaso ge ropa la tene kongso dagzin shu che adrosi gare
Rita jitang simchen la pen toya la this challenge yorwa yina yang ta ti ji mainly is that is sincerely cheade ke chimo sang so gerngone ko ji benefit yina yang same time tini yorwa ji nyingje ta yang tini teyowa kase hirap ta nyingji songdun ji jubba la budwa yang nyingji jibu ke chine mona la bana yire je chine yang ko phagi de hirap pen matoya tini yonsu girwa 디니다 텔레직 디스티스코 이나다 100% 가서 상지면도 하고 말 디나 양 고지 히랍 송던 데베 토는다 년들이 지나 간디 용사레스다 디스타고 요사레스 대가 나게 되네 다조 가리 피어 모티베이션 랑원에 지 피어 베니피트 something 케르와
So it is challenging to benefit sentient beings, and mainly the most important thing is the sincerity of your own intention. So that's really what is most important is to have the wish to truly benefit or to really help, to help others, but then they also say that bodhicitta, for instance, is the indivisibility of wisdom and compassion. So if we just have compassion, sometimes too much compassion and not enough wisdom can end up not benefiting and maybe even can lead to harm. So, of course, like only the Buddha can really see how to truly benefit others. But as much as we can to try to employ both functions, the function of wisdom and the function of compassion, and to, understand that what we're going for is their indivisibility. And so then, but the main thing is, like the most important thing, or what we can all we can really focus on is the purity of our motivation in most cases.
Okay. So now, dedication for dedication.
La?
Dedication for dedication.
Okay. So we can do the dedication on page 24 of the prayer book. Bottom of the page, by the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings and samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Drikungpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara.
Rinpoche, so would you mind saying a few words? Kenshin Rinpoche is coming here next weekend for teachings. Would you mind saying a few words about the importance of Kenshin Rinpoche to the lineage and what he might be teaching on?
Redating is the Dunda Yemala, Tini Kanchambo Pilgrims, Tinita Jatan, what's on Junka Juke, Jatanta, Kochi Lama, Tine, Drupon, Kembo, Tindi, Mambo Yorwa, Ritina Yanta, Tina Tanda, Jatan Junka Jilla, Tini, Jig. Benacha Havina, doing Jamgon Namni, Sia Jitang, Tig, Da, Carsegre, Jig, Timba Sineta, Yontangan Yalla, what they are tella, the name of Kenshin, Sia Yoris, Jig, Jimoto Yomaris.
So yes, thank you. Next week, a very important event that you won't want to miss. So next weekend, we're so lucky to have the Kenshin of our lineage, Kenshin Nyima Gyaltsen Rinpoche is coming and will give teachings. And he's really one of the very most important people in our lineage. In the Drikung Kagyu, we have many lamas, we have drupons, we have kimpos, and of course, the most important are the two heads of our lineage, the two, holinesses, Drikung Kyabgan holinesses. But when it comes to somebody who who is a holder of the teachings based on qualities, like his qualities alone, that he's, that is Kenshin, Nyima Gyaltsen, and there's just one Kenshin, one title that's given in the lineage, among everybody. So there is only, one Kenshin at a time.
Officially,
And so he is the official Kenshin of our lineage.
So that is not only that, that is a position of Marwa. In Angone Taneta, we still and we were contact with discussion. So some they have really kind of amazing. So we have Rasi Koncho Jansen in the Tibetan,
So
he's Kenshin. Consondo in that Dakar City, Mandawa, Karsena, Benangas, for example, I think very impossible, Karsena, Tabri law, Teniti, now some Hakona, or Kaparova. In the Benarasi, I was there in Tibet, Labiorwa. In a Momaina, Tabri law. Yim do Labudua. Or that now you can't imagine and the wind, that Ganjor to Solo, Sargi Law, Tapalo de Mangato in the Raya Markaina, 101 euro, Bejatina Carti or a Sulabi or a Sanji Do Cardinal Lavi or the Tama Yim. At the end of that, also when a jigta realizations down, Jigjong make it up, Jig Sonam, Bejachimbo Sawa, Tindikin Moneta and Jig Kepa. Tin Kepade, Tin Kepade, that Kepade, and that you Tangason withend and doing that you can Kepado Marwa, Tinita Tanda, Jingone, that tower, Kembo Jata Tonta, in the Yortin Tinane, that Jark, now Dang and Dina, that top, and Kepa, Quando Mevatini Chadi or is, that Tinding as a jig. When a young teaching chair that to Tungton read in a Tindiki Mone, then can go to chin up, Juba, transmission, then go to YouTube connection to be kitchen bodies.
like, so not only that, but actually, and he's really just extraordinary. There's another really amazing scholar in our lineage right now too, who's in Tibet, Rasa Koncho Gyaltsen. And so
Koncho
Drupon, Garela?
Koncho Gyaltsen.
Koncho Gyaltsen, Rasa Koncho Gyaltsen. He so Drupon and Steve were having a conversation, it sounds like, in Kentucky, just about how amazing, like, he and Kenshin Nyima Gyaltsen Rinpoche are, like, they really have like cities that are pretty extraordinary, because it's really they're different from everyone else, and that they can read through books, like read through massive volumes of scripture and like remember everything, and having read through it once, and for instance, like all the conjure and tinger, it's not like you can read it all the time. It's hundreds of hundreds of volumes. You have, maybe like at once, or, at a certain point in time, he'll read through it, or will read through it, but and that's not just with conjure and tinger, but with many texts, his ability to know clearly the Dharma, what came from who, what the content of it is really beyond ordinary capacity. This is because of his realization, and because of karma, from former lives, like merit accumulated in former lives. But they're in, like, both of these examples, they're true scholars, like they're incredibly learned and intelligent, beyond ordinary, like the ordinary beings, and Kenshin is not just like, such an exalted teacher in our Drikung Kagyu, but actually he's the top, like among the top of the top, and among all of the scholars right now in India and elsewhere, that he's really renowned and revered for his incredible wisdom, knowledge, and qualities. And so it's really special that he's coming, and it's just a short period that he's here. But if you come, you definitely receive blessing, also transmission, and it's important, it's very auspicious to just make the connection.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone. Just a quick announcement. So as Drupon Rinpoche said, Kenshin Nyima Gyaltsen Rinpoche is coming next weekend. So he'll be here Saturday and Sunday teaching on the Fivefold Path of Mahamudra. And that's going to begin on Saturday, August 26th at 10 a.m. And we'll go, and then we'll have a 2-hour teaching and then a 2-hour break. No, does it start at 9 a.m.? No, I think it's 10. 10 a.m., 10 to 5. Yeah, 10 to 5. And then Sunday, 10 to 12. So Rinpoche is only going to be here on Sunday for half the day. And then also, after Rinpoche leaves, we'll have, in a few weeks from now, we're going to have our annual Mani Drupchen. So Drupon Rinchen Dorje and Drupon Thinley Ningpo are both going to be here. And that is going to be September 13th. In the evening, we have an empowerment, Chenra Zig empowerment. And then it's going to end on Sunday, the 17th, I think is the date. Yeah.
At what time?
At in the morning.
Oh, I thought we were going to end at 5 on Sunday. We should do that, because...
Yeah, so it'll be through the 13th through the 17th. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
You guys both look so beautiful.
hot here?
Yes, she said it was hot when she woke up, and we went to Jess's mouthwarming party, and when we opened the door, she was like, I can see you.
Yeah.
And she came from Pennsylvania.
But winter is good. Nice.
Did you take some cues in the storage? So it's still on the carpet, but there we go.
That's good, eh?
Looks good, Dorothy.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks good, thank you.
No problem. Because with this turning room, standard turning room,